So with this panel that you see here, these wonderful individuals, I'm gonna give them time to introduce themselves. This is a casual conversation, y'all. Y'all don't have to be so stuffy, shake it out, all right? We'll start here on the left with my friend Midnight. Go for it.
All right. What's going on, everybody? I'm Lloyd.
And I'm Natasha, and we are Midnight Comics.
Midnight Comics, yeah. Atlanta's first, largest black family-owned indie comic book and manga company.
Yeah, so we make comic books and mangas, and I am also a voice actor.
I'm Hunter Ditch, and I'm a voice actor.
I'm Jonathan Moss, and I'm a nomad.
Tanner Allen. I run an independent game studio. I've been in the industry for like almost 25 years. I also help run nonprofit Black Voice in Gaming that helps make sure that Black entrepreneurs have opportunities, funding, etc. in the games industry.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Anthony Morris. I've been an animator for over 10 years, and the biggest thing I've been working on right now is the Five Nights at Freddy's graphic novels.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Brown. I'm an art director at Wizards of the Coast, working on Magic the Gathering. I've been in the animation, gaming industries, and tabletop industries for 13 years now, and I've worked on shows like Archer, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The League, as a background artist and director, and I have a podcast currently called Painted in Color, dedicated to uplifting marginalized artists in the industries.
My name's Valencia Coleman. I've been doing stuff in games for indie development and like visual novels and things for about 4 years now. Last year I got my first professional job in the game industry as a gameplay engineer at Alchemy Labs, where I work on VR games. And one thing I'm super passionate about is that I'm the diversity IGDA Foundation, which is about diversity in gaming, alumni coordinator. So I plan events for the IGDA Foundation, do also things for diversity, and I'm all about promoting Black women in gaming.
So, before we get started, one takeaway that I do want y'all to encourage you, make sure you're following everybody up here, because all of us, even though we're different avenues, we have streamers, we have artists, we have game developers. Me, myself, I'm 6 years, so I'm kind of baby compared to some of the people up here. But one thing that is true is representation matters. So, the one takeaway I want y'all to all get from this is, one, follow us, and two, take a step towards diversifying some of the things that y'all are passionate about, okay?
Glad you're here to hear about diversity, because a lot of times in our industry, it goes unspoken. And I'll give you a quick example in even my life. I primarily work in animation, video games, and commercials, and I've done thousands of sessions, worked on lots of projects, Genshin Impact, Walking Dead, Boss Baby, all these different projects, Young Love. But my point is, in all these thousands of sessions, I never once had a Black director, ever, never had a Black director. And that's a problem, and even talking to some of my colleagues and some of my mentors, they couldn't name Black directors that worked in voiceover. So instead of complaining about it, I decided to do something about it. So I started working with those mentors, and in the last 2 years, I started working on 3 different video games as the only Black director I know in the industry. And I think that's one of the important reasons why we have opportunities like this, because if you don't know the opportunities exist or the pathways to get there, you can never make it happen for yourself.
So as I said earlier, I'm very passionate about Black women in gaming, because I do a lot of game education, and I go teach at schools, and all the time I hear the girls saying, I want to do game development, I want to be a programmer like you, but I don't see anyone else like you. And I got so tired of hearing that as an excuse, like, well, fine, and they'll just see me. So that's why I was like, I'm not afraid to be the only Black person in the room. It sucks, but I'm not afraid to do it. So I was like, I'll be the role model for other people. So I'm like, that's why I'm up here, because I'm like, there are other African American females in the game industry. You are looking at one.
Let's go. Let's go. Y'all too quiet. I need louder applause. Come on. Especially for this. I know how hard it is for Black women's voices to be heard, which is part of what we're going to talk about, right?
So one of my favorite representation character designs was in Deathloop recently. I really like Juliana Blake, the way she looked. I love Deathloop because it was just so representation, so much representation in that game, so much of it, and it was like, it was just that's the character. They still have personality. The whole personality wasn't what they were representing. It's just they had character development, everything. And I love Juliana Blake, and like when I saw her being a strong female Black character, you know, she was technically an antagonist. She was strong, she was loud, she was bold, she was proud. I'm like, yes, I need more of this. So yeah, one of my favorite representations.
Okay, cool. What was the name of that game?
Deathloop.
Deathloop. So
It's directed by Dinga Bakaba. He's a black man in France. And we had a long conversation of what it's like to be a black person in a very white country. It is not easy. And so we had a lot of, he really thinks very hard. He's actually directing the next Blade game, the Blade game that's coming out.
How many pre-orders we got? We got pre-orders for Blade. No hands, really? Oh.
Can't even pre-order it yet, you know what I'm saying? It's not available.
Video games come
take
out
like
like
2-3
5
years
years after.
minimum to make. Like, it's a very long time.
I should know that, right? Okay, so yeah, we got Blade, we got Deathloop. Lauren.
Yeah, some of the ones that impress me the most are the ones where the game developers actively put real effort into developing hair. Oh, is it on? There we go. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Into actively developing hair for black characters in games. So the effort that they put into Miles Morales' Spider-Man, like for his fade, it looked so good, and it was all high def, and you could see his texture, and it was clean too. But they went behind the scenes and showed how they developed it, and I really admire when they go the extra mile, because all the things that we've learned in school are very Eurocentric. It's not for our hair, it's not for us. So game developers have to seek elsewhere to learn how to render black hair for the first time, because it's not taught in schools. And that's an effort I've been trying to do, is like to encourage them to be taught more, to encourage artists to look into different styles more. So yeah, that's one of the examples that I really liked recently.
Period.
For me, being on the character design and animation part, I understand from the technical point why they try to avoid doing our hair, because animating dreads, especially 2D or any locks like that, is really, really hard. But with the technology that we have and the process that we have, it is way more possible than before. So I just encourage any artists out there to kind of experiment and actually look at your surroundings, look at the people around you. I just like that the character creator in games are starting to have like waves. I just thought, why are we all bald or buzz cut? You know, like no
Flat top.
Yeah,
Got the Killmonger.
somebody's gonna talk about the Killmonger. I'm not gonna talk about it, but I'm just saying, it's been really great seeing the different characters out there. And if you're a character designer, I just say, hey, make sure you're like looking at the people around you and seeing how you can adapt and create a certain style of person when it comes to our diversity in our games and animation.
I love it.
First good, Leroy Smith and Tekken. Because they're a Japanese company that was like, we're gonna make a black dude from the Bronx who's like a Wing Chun like master, and it was just like the RZA, right, basically. Like, Wu-Tang invented, and they're like, alright, let's make that dude for real, to the point where T-Pain dresses up as him, and it's like, you see that where it's moving out, like the Tekken being a very black game, and then they're like being like, alright, let's, because Street Fighter doesn't want to seem to make any more black American people. They just turned Balrog into a white character recently. They turned him into Ed, like Ed's now Balrog, rather than fix the weird stuff. There's two things. A lot of times they take hip hop culture and they just put white characters in the game nowadays, and that's a really bad representation. Also, like Tony Hawk 3 specifically, I got that game, and as a kid, I grew up and got lighter as I got older. But in that game, the facial features are tied to your skin tone, and it's just and I'm just I was just like, what's going on here? It's like you have to look this to be lighter skin or this to be darker skin, and I was just I had to pick this weird intermedium that I was like, I like the game's culture, I like the music, everything. I hate the character creator.
So it changes your nose as your skin complexion?
Your nose, face, everything.
God, like the darker you get, the wider your nose goes.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Well, that happened.
I would also like to add, when you asked the question, the first example that came into my head was Miles Morales, because as an Afro-Latina, which means, I'm mixed with a Salvadorian and Black, seeing another Afro-Latino on stage, really just made me smile. I remember seeing him speak to his, mom in Spanish and his mom speak back, and I was like, oh my gosh, wait, there's other people like that? I mean, it was just so healing, I guess. And, my brothers are also Afro-Latinos, so seeing that we kind of get to grow up with that representation on screen, it's really, really validating, and just, you almost get a sense of acceptance within yourself, and I guess, a courage to want to embrace your authentic self.
I love that.
So I'm quite a bit older, and so seeing people who looked like me was very rare when I was growing up. And I remember when Jasmine came out, I was like, oh, she looks like me, and she's a princess, and I was so excited. And now, unfortunately now I look back and I'm like, that was some racist stuff going on with Jasmine. But that was the only thing I had to cling on to at that age. And it's just so wonderful to be a part of, this project that is like ending that for the next generation, where other children don't have to grow up like questioning the idols that they're looking at, because they're going to be authentically represented by, the actors.
I love it. Adrian?
I think it's kind of hard to design black hair in gaming, because as you see, it's different curl patterns right here, And so having us in the room talk about the type of curls, tight curls, loose curls, locks, not yarn, but locks, very important. So I think having us there to decide, okay guys, let's make sure our hair is not see-through in the game.
Yeah, they would be very mad at me in the development room, because I would go strictly for like a bunch of Smash Bro haircuts. Like, you would know those guys could game. Yeah, this character. Like, the worse the haircut, the better the skills. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the haircut be at 0, dude got 0 charisma. Like, you know what I'm saying? With the fade, 100 charisma. Like, it would just go up like that.
Yeah, I can actually see, like, when I pick my character, it'll look like me, but straight hair. The whole mohawk happened.
I think the key was her saying we have to be in the room, and it's not just on the talent side but the production side. So when those decisions are made, like you mentioned Spider-Man, knowing that this graffiti means this or this means that, there's certain things you only pick up from going to the black barber shop that is a part of the culture, because there's certain things for holidays and the things that we experience that you can't mimic without living that experience. So having authentic representation matters now more than ever.
Authentic representation. So important. Because for me, as a cishet black man that wants to be inclusive of all black spaces, black, brown, indigenous, appropriation is something as a creator that we try to avoid at all costs. So for me, I've streamlined, and this is what separates my studio, and maybe we can talk about this as a whole, making sure that we include those voices from each community when we're creating our pieces of work, right? So I'm gonna let y'all back at it. I cut somebody off. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, I mean, I was somebody who was directly in a room when we were creating an avatar creator for a game, Harry Potter Puzzles and Spells. I don't stand Harry Potter no more, but back then it was fantastic because I was able to research all these other avatar creators and see how much our hair wasn't represented at all. Like out of like 60 different hairstyles, oftentimes there'd be like 3 kinky hairstyles in the game. And so what I did for the system was I was like, let's have an even amount of each curl pattern. Let's have an even amount of 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, so that all of us, everybody across the spectrum could have that. That competition would have never happened if I wasn't in the room, because nobody even knew what 4C hair was until I came in and told them. And it created a more inclusive system that everybody could see themselves in. Like, we just don't get to have that. It was abysmal, y'all, this research that I did. Like, it was crazy how much we didn't have any representation in so many different games. AAA games. They had a budget.
I just want to give a quick shout out to the Afro Tech Hair Library, run by AM Dark. They're amazing in the space, and like working with Dove, like working with people. So like, there is no excuse at this point. I don't know. Also, Ebonic Sims, who does Sims modding and is now like working to work with EA to make Sims better. Because it's funny, when I worked in retail like 20 years ago, like black girls would be coming in buying The Sims, and it's like you don't find yourself in that game, but they would be like a large portion of the populace going to buy the collection, and it was like it was always upsetting.
The Sims literally they reference the cauliflower for hair. I'm not kidding.
This is true. They do that.
I will say, even if you're not in the art department, you can still make a difference in your studio. Because I don't work in the art department either, but I remember vividly have a vivid memory of mine happening while I was working. I was simply in my character creator of our upcoming game, and I was saying, man, I really wish I could make my hairstyle. I'm just saying, my hair is not in this character creator. And I just said it directly to Amanda's face, and she was like, oh my God. And she's like, I did it. Again, she didn't really realize that. I was not angry or anything, but I just said something. A lot of times when I deal with a lot of girls, I'm like, sometimes you just gotta say something. A lot of times I'm scared to say something. I understand why I was scared to say something. but it's best to say something. I was like, I'm going to speak up and say I can't find my hairstyle in the game. And a week or two later, I talked to some of the artists, and my hairstyle was in the game.
Wow. And I'm so glad you pointed that out. I'm so glad. Yes, please. I'm so glad. Because I remember I was on set one time, and as much as it's an issue in the gaming community and in the animation, etc., I was on set and it's an issue in live action because I was on set and as I won't name no names, but this hairdresser I was working with, she compared my hair to like this wavy curls, and she was like, yeah, I'm used to your hair, because one thing about my hair is that like I have curly, big, kinky hair, right? So it needs to look good. It frizzes up and humidity and all that. And I was just like, hopefully your experience with my hair, and she was like, yeah, no, your hair is just like this girl's. This girl's hair was wavy. And I was like, oh, no, I can't trust you. So I literally went she would do my hair, and I was scared to speak up for myself, because I was probably 14 at the time. So I was really scared to, hurt her feelings. So I would let her do my hair, go into my trailer, and let my mommy fix it up. And then go out and be like, yep, she did it. Director, yes, she's amazing. And it really is an issue that you see a lot in Hollywood. And I really hope that now I have in my contract in any movie that I do from now on that I want to pick out my hairstylist, or I want to make sure I have people on my team that I can trust.
You go, girl. That's what we're doing.
No, to piggyback off what she was saying a little while ago about speaking up, I think about my experience playing Elden Ring day one, and the skin tone and the hair. I just completely got turned off from the game immediately. And it's even in those type of games, it's yo, let's speak up. There needs to be more people in the room so that there is that representation. It shouldn't matter what genre it is in this medieval or whatever the case may be in these genres. We still exist. So yeah, that just reminded me of that. Somebody needed to speak up in that instance.
And even like he was saying, as a Sims girly since the first Sims, I've always been this is not what my hair looks like. Yeah. And I've been following Ebonics for years because I have all her mods, because I wanted to be able to make a black character. And then of course it always goes back to what everybody else was saying, having black women in the room, in the studios, and even in comics, we've been talking about that a lot lately. And I even started a whole podcast to showcase black women in the comic book and manga and anime space, so that we can have our voices heard, and so people can start hearing what our complaints are, and maybe if people start paying attention, they'll fix it. Because I know even when we do character designs ourselves, we put so much emphasis on hair. It's very, very important to us, not just for ourselves, not just for the other black people around, but even for our children, to see their hair represented on characters that are supposed to look like that.
First thing when you pick up a game, what's most important to you?
If it has a character creator, I would want it to have a good variety of hairstyles. I would be annoyed if there wasn't any black hairstyles, but I get very excited when I see some big black hairstyles. I can't believe that Pokemon has front knots in it. That caught me off guard.
I love it. What about you?
For characters not to follow certain stereotypes, because they're not monolithic.
Amen. Anybody else? Yeah? Ooh, here we go. So,
how long it takes before we actually see somebody of color in the game?
Preach. Okay. So that's where I'm leading with this, because we have three things that hit on the same topic: identity, body diversity. All right. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Let's mix it up a little bit before I hop in and put in my 2 cents. Josh, what you got?
Going on a character creation, one of the newest games, Street Fighter 6, has caught me off guard. I've been playing games, making characters based on myself for years, and for the first time to ever see this happen is your character starts off, your character creation starts off default black. Starts off
I knew I should have bought that
Street
game.
Fighter 6. Over the years growing up, you will have to change your character from either a white person or to from an Asian person, but basically anyone that's like fair skinned. That was the first experience where it started off as a black person for me. If you know any other games, let me know.
Lloyd?
First, I appreciate the shout out because I do the voices in Street Fighter 6 for the black characters.
Go ahead and brag, black man.
Who do you voice?
Go ahead, black man.
That's what I voice. Is
Yeah, all the black people.
Not all the black characters. There's other black people, but I do a lot of them. No, but while we're on the topic of hair, I do want to give a shout out to Matthew Cherry and Monica Young, who created, if you haven't seen it, the Hair Love series, and then later the Young Love series on HBO Max, which literally covers this topic about hair and black culture and where we come from. And I'm not giving the shout out biasly because I'm on that show too, but it specifically covers the challenges we face for single black fathers, for single black mothers, trying to do the different hairstyles, but more importantly, the cultural references that go along with that, the backstories that are often not told, and that's why we've been talking about how authenticity matters, because in those writer rooms were black people. Black people made that show, created that show, and put it out at all levels of production, and that's why it shows.
Love it. Go for it, Lloyd.
We're talking about body diversity. I think if I was to do a selfless plug here, if you would, or shameless plug, if you would, and when we're designing our characters and stuff, one of our characters, my personal favorite character of ours, the Gray, she's a superhero, but she's built like a black woman, one that doesn't work out, which good or bad, whatever. The artist is doing a fantastic job of showcasing, okay, she's got the role, she's got the hips, she's got all of that. Everybody that's a superhero is not gonna be muscular and super fit, but now let's actually just look at what a real person, what a real black person actually looks like. And so we are very focused on bringing real body shape into our characters, and again, just showing that, the diversity in how we are built. You know, I want to be a hero, but I'm not built. So what does that look like? So let's see that more. So.
Okay, cool. I definitely want to open.
Yeah, can I pop up for a second?
Got it.
I do character design. I write, I do all this stuff, and I'm tired when I play video games. So I do not want, I hate character creators. Like, I want a game that's designed better. Yeah. And that's like the problem. It's like you're putting all this effort on me to be like, hey, you gotta try to, again, even if we put all the pieces in there, you gotta now put them together to make the character that you want to look like. And I'm like, could you pay the artists that work at your company and also hire black people and everybody, hire more people that can learn, because I worked with a Moroccan dev who, he was like one of the only people we did a art blast being like, we're hiring a character art designer. And he was like one of the only people, and we said in the job description, like, you need to have experience with creating black people. Like, only people in the whole world to submit to this, 500 people, because it was like mostly white people putting like portfolios with just white characters that were like Clash of Clans ripoffs and Riot ripoffs. Like, we're dealing with this weird Fortnite-ification and League of Legends-ification of people's art portfolios where they just don't know how to make, because these games don't really care, like then the people don't care because they want to put like colorful white women characters because that's the new representation that's erasing like black people and games, and it's just interesting. Like, we need to pay for better character design. That's like the funny thing with Street Fighter is that like Street Fighter, I'm really happy they're giving better like character creators, but again, like Kimberly's like just Guy again, and they just reskinned Guy, and then they were like, oh well, we're just gonna get rid of Balrog and make another character, make him white now. And they're just like erasing like Black American characters from their game, despite Black Americans being one of their biggest like fan bases, right? And it's just like, and I've had conversations with them, and it goes from like, oh yeah, that's true, to like, well, they're just a Japanese company. And I'm like, no, you're work at the American office, and we're the biggest audience for the company. So it's just we're dealing with. It's just interesting. We need better overall art.
I do want to, because I touched on this topic and I was counting how many times I heard the word women. I want to lean on the women of the panel for specifically this body diversity women in games, women in animation. Good representation, bad representation. I want to hear your voice about it.
I can't speak much about that. Like I said, I do like I said, I much as I talk about Juliana Blank a lot because she's such a great representation. I really loved her, love her personality. I also love, and it's getting a little bit off by diversity, but I really love including some experiences of an African American person in your gameplay. I remember playing Mafia 3. I played it with one of my friends who were Caucasian, and me and that friend were playing the game together. And the game is set in 1960s, and you're playing as a mixed man. Well, it's an open world game. You can't walk into any store. And my Caucasian friends are like, I can't just walk into a store. Like, you can't because you're playing as a mixed person in 1960s. You can't walk into any store. And the game warns you some stores you can't walk in. And I understood that, but my Caucasian friends are like, it was like, their mind was blown. So that was like, it's the 1960s. Like, I know, but it's still a video game. Like, I love that the game showed that this is what history was like. Like, even though it's an open world game, there are some things in open world you still can't do because you are a mixed person. And the game was very authentic about that. I really enjoyed it.
It is, there's a tasteful way to handle all this heaviness that we deal with as creators, as Black folks, BIPOC, brown
it was
folks.
so simple. It's just you can't walk in the store.
Right. Right.
Ironically, the game didn't sell well, and the first person fired was the black writer on the game.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's my friend. because we all know each other.
Lauren?
Yeah, my experience with body diversity was at that last game studio I worked at. I was the art director at this team, and me and my concept artists were trying to make these athletic characters that were training up students. And for reference, because we wanted to have an amazing cast of different characters that are these Sifu, these trainers. And what I sent to the CEO was the chart of all the Olympic athletes that have trained in different sports, like that, the shot put or swimming or volley, like all these different body types. They're beautiful, all fit athletic people, but various wide ranges. And the CEO was like, no, I want this, like the idealized, like the perfect body. And it was just really frustrating because we really wanted to put, here's the thing, it's not just having better representation, but it's also so much more interesting to have character designs that represent the breadth of people who live in this world. It makes for some cool designs, it makes for some creative decisions, and it just looks cool. And to have that limit where you can only have these one or few kinds of body types with no heavy people, no people with disabilities, nothing. I'm like, this is so limiting and so boring, to be perfectly honest. I want to see what I see in the world around me, and that's what I still strive to do. But it sucks to have that limiter placed upon us. But if I can make my own game studio, all body types are gone. All body types represented.
Come on. I need to be a husky hero.
So one thing I try to do, and this is not for everyone, this doesn't work everywhere, but I know in my studio I work for, if I see something I don't like, any place I've worked with in the past, if I see something I don't like, I just speak up about it. And if I get backlash, I'll be like, all right, let me go find as many allies as I can. So I will go always. So I will go to all my allies, talk to them about this issue. And I was like, if we all band together and kick down the CEO's door, maybe we can do something. I'm not sure that always works. It probably doesn't. But what I've dealt with, I'm going to get as many people to agree with me as possible so I don't feel alone. Because one of the constant issues I deal with, especially with people who want to be gamers, I always feel alone. I feel like no one's there. I'm like, there are people there. We just got to find a way to ally and band together.
Oh, believe me, I spoke up many times and got fired, so that was cool. But I didn't care because the studio tanked anyway. It's going.
Hey.
You make bad decisions, get bad results, man.
Yeah, bad decision making.
So as a gamer, I tend to make my character with small waist, big hips, all that good stuff, right? Then I get a game with that same character. I'm like, what is this? I want to be skinny this time, So I think one of our major issues is that we decide on what we want to do, and when they do it, we complain too. So we have to decide as a group is if we want a certain design or character or hairstyle, let's not complain when they're actually making effort at the same time.
That's bad.
As someone whose weight has fluctuated my entire life, it has always been interesting trying to figure this part out, especially in designing characters. I think that's a big reason why, like Lloyd said earlier, we try to make sure that we specifically have a lot of different, diverse body types. So we have like the gymnast who's fit and thin and slim, because she's gymnast. We have the scientist who doesn't work out, and so she's a little bit thicker, but she also happens to have, decent genetics. We have another character who they are larger build, and another guy who was also a stockier, bigger guy. Like, just to see all of that, because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like, we could complain and that they don't do it. We can complain that they do it.
Yes.
Or we can do it.
That's fair. That's fair. Hunter?
I just think that it's important that we have them. I'm not a game player. I'm just an actress. But I think it's important just because we're teaching the world about different ways to be beautiful.
I love that. I love that. Finding the beauty in us all, because that's why we play games. That's why we watch anime. That's why we find these escapes that we love so much. We want to find not only a relief from this crazy world we live in, but also some semblance of seeing us in a more perfect world, right?
Yeah, and I think that's actually, so you saying that, I think that's one of the special things about gaming and why people fall in love with this so much is because you really do lose yourself in that world. You can create whatever you want to, your shape, your body shape, your color, whatever, your hair. And I think as the new generation, with the new generation, with my generation, you get to see more of, just again, diversity in women and everything like that, and especially that we have more people, these amazing people up here speaking out about it and shining a light on it. It's definitely getting the word out there more, and I think it's inspiring, my generation and the generation after me to notice these issues and want to make a change to them.
I love it. That's why I do it, for the kids.
Can I talk on that? Yeah, go ahead. So I feel like I'll be the weird one out. When I was playing video games as I was growing up, I never really paid attention to that. I just liked playing the game. I really cared about that. I didn't really focus on the diversity until I got Animal Crossing for my daughter, and she wanted to make herself, and we couldn't find anything. I was saying, when I had kids is when I was like, oh, yeah, I never noticed we had that or not. But before, I don't know if there's anybody else out there, I just really never paid attention.
No, I'm the same. I'm the exact same.
I think
Because it wasn't. Yeah.
You don't notice it because you grow up in it. And so it's until it's like, right in front of you that you're like, oh my gosh, this is the world I've been accepting.
Yeah, for a long time, I couldn't even be a black character. I had to be like darkish gray, and I'm like, like, oh, what happened with the tones? It just goes away.
There's one thing, like, people talk about, I know every team and every, because indie games are very big and small animation teams, et cetera, and you can't have everybody's voice because you don't always have a budget to pay everybody. But doing a lot of research is one thing, trying to pay at least people some contract rates, but like a really good example, and it's sort of biased, but in my game Treachery Beatdown City, we started the game, because everyone said you couldn't put a woman on the front of a cover, so we put a woman on the front of the cover. Ooh. And she's like a dark-skinned Puerto Rican woman who just gets to fight racists who want to touch her hair. And so actually some of this humor, so my ex-wife designed her, and she's a dark-skinned Puerto Rican woman who people want to touch her hair, and people would mistake her for the help, and this and that, even though she was she was a fine artist who would dress really cool, but because she was at a friend's house and they had their baby and she picks up the baby, another white lady assumed she was the babysitter, or rather than a friend, and that the kids all played together. And so we took that experience and really pushed that to be to make a game where it's what if you could fight all the people who treat you poorly. But it took a lot of her, she sat there and she really she took all of her experience and just put this into this character. And it's I think one of the first Puerto Rican women that's in a game that's also on a front cover, that also gets doesn't ever get objectified in a way that she doesn't ever have power to reverse. And it's you just got to put intentionality into it. And that's the thing, I think for Alchemy, one of the reasons why it's successful is because again, like I've been working with Alchemy for a while because they've been like, I used to do Game Deals at Color Expo, doing Black Voice Gaming. Like you've got people who actually are like, we hang out and we talk and they're like, you're right, Shawn, like we'll defer to like when you say Black people were done poorly, blah, blah. And then that's like, okay, they hire people, because Alchemy was a much smaller company. I remember when it was like 3 people and it was all white dudes forever ago. But like they internalize these things, and it's taken like a decade because they've been around for a long time. So it takes the right people listening to then, and then they're like, yeah. But like, I want you to have like power where you don't have to go to the CEO. You can be like, yo, because that's the problem. Like the CEOs, like if they fire you, then it's like a lot of people are getting fired all the time, and Black people are always the first to go in these companies a lot of the time.
Got it. I mean, we're up here making changes. I know several CEOs are sitting right here, heads of companies. We are making sure that we include that in, and I want to definitely touch on another point because with the body diversity. For me, at home, neurodivergence hit hard in my family, inside and out. So in my game, when I say we're inclusive, we have a game that's literally just meant to explore what it means to be connected as humans. And also, that is a point that I feel like BIPOC in games, because we have so much intersectionality with our Blackness, with our being Afro-Latina, being Latina, we have so many intersections that we can make visible and speak on. And even though it may not be us, we open up that for others to see themselves in the games.
One thing I always like, I believe there's this new game coming out. It hasn't came out yet, called South of Midnight, that's coming out. And I was interested in the game because it was about a Southern lady, Black lady in the South, and that made me interested. Because one of my personal experiences when I went to GDC was people were like, wow, you're so Southern. And it was weird. They were like, wow, you're so Southern. And I was like, why are you pointing that out? Like other Black people that weren't from the South were pointing out how Southern I was. It felt weird. I just hold the door for someone like, you're Southern. I was like, okay, weird, stop pointing it out. I was like, and then I was like, look, how many Southern games do we have? How many people in games that are like, Southern is not a stereotype and not something very, not well done, but like, how many do we have? It's not a lot. And so one thing I was working on for a future game, I would love to have like a Southern character that is Black in the game, because that's something that's my personal experience. That's something I really wanted to like discuss more. And because people do objectify it and it's weird.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge is, to some people, the word diversity is like a bad word, and those are usually the racist people, right? And as we come up on the anniversary of George Floyd, there was this period where people were putting the black squares up, and it was like, oh shit, Black people do have to deal with some bad stuff. And we understood terms like white guilt, and we understood terms like privilege. And the problem is, the people with that privilege sometimes don't want to give it up, right? Or this room would be full of people with privilege who decide to also lift us up too. So we had to find different ways to find allies on our battle up, right? To not alienate, because sometimes the problem is people do want to support us, but just don't know how. So we have to be the leaders that teach that, and many people in the panel have already shared ways they've done it individually, and I'm sure you in the crowd have, but we have to find ways to find allies, because we can't do this work alone.
I'm so glad you pointed that. Great job. Like that, oh my gosh, that's such a, sorry. That's such an important thing, because I think it's scary. I think it's just scary, like especially me, I'm 17, right? Coming up here with you guys and seeing how like articulate you guys are, I'm like, oh my gosh, like let me just be quiet this whole time. Let me not mess myself up. But like it's so true. Like it's I think when you hear words like diversity and representation, it's scary because it's so political and it can get very political. But I think everyone, just like everyone has opinions, everyone has their own opinions in it, and you have to be willing to be the brave one to speak out on it, because it's never going to get shined on, and I know I'm using that word a lot, but it's never going to get shined on if you don't do that, because that you may think and the next person may think the same thing, So I want to shout out a writer right now. His name is Greg Lawson, and I am working on a show with him right now. So we're in pre-production, and it's almost like a reimaginary of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but the main character is Afro-Latina, which is me. And I think it's like, you know, like he has so many, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but he's incorporating so many Afro culture, really like just cool innuendos in there and like, you know, messages in there. And I just think it's so amazing because you have to almost do it in that way so people can get it with more closed minds and inspire them to possibly, you know, hopefully after watching the show, that it will inspire them to want to speak out on certain things that they found in the show.
I love it. I love it.
This is my first time, right? I am Sierra Roberts. I'm a college student, junior high at Albany State, and I currently work in advanced communications, right? So although I'm not a game developer, what I've been doing for the past couple of years is created a podcast called Normality with a Twist, and I have cerebral palsy, spastic diplegia cerebral palsy. I was not diagnosed until I was 6, and I did not learn how to walk until I was 5. So, with that being said, I wanted to ask this because I've been watching people play games my entire life, and what I've been wanting to see a lot of is more disabled people be represented on games, right? So, what is it, those of you who have kids, what is it that you have realized in terms of making games, creating them, engineering them? What would you like to teach your children through your creations? That's what I would like to ask.
That's a great question, by the way. Wrap it up.
I'll go real fast. So for me, when I design my characters and make video games and the animations, all that, the one thing I like to teach my kids is just the normal things in life that they're not going to pay attention to me, but they'll watch something and pay attention to it. So I want to make the thing that I want them to watch to learn the lessons that I would love for them to learn. Sometimes they'll follow me, but they won't listen, because that's just how kids are. So I think it's good to make games to teach them. I just mean to teach them just about being who they are and who they want to be, and that it's okay for you to be that. Because I was supposed to be a basketball player, but I wanted to draw. And I was looked down upon until I became successful. So,
Toshi,
man, okay, that was relatable. We don't make video games, obviously. We make comic books, but we have 3 kids, and our youngest daughter was born with spina bifida. And so she was very behind when it comes physically. And so we want them to know that just because they're different, all of our kids, you know, they're different in their own ways, it doesn't mean something's wrong with them. And so, like, even with our youngest, we have a character in one of our comics who is literally is based off of her. She was born with spina bifida. She never learned how to walk, but she became an engineer. She created her own brace and eventually her own leg so that she's able to walk with the assistance of the brace that she created on her own, because she was like, I'm not gonna let this stop me, even if the world wants to try to. And so we just want them to know that what makes them, gosh, to quote NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, what makes them different makes them beautiful.
So I can speak of what I have dealt with and what I have seen. This is all my personal experience. Again, because I teach middle school and I teach students, I have students come up to me and say, you're the first Black woman I ever seen do this. I've never seen another Black woman do this. And when I tell my parents, they say Black girls don't do that. I had a girl's parent come up to me personally saying, why are you teaching my daughter this? And I was all like, I'm trying to help her. He's like, no, you're gonna harm her. And I was like, I'm not. And the fact is such a fear. And I get why there's a fear. I fully understand why there's a fear. But there's like a fear in running away from it. And because we don't want the adversity. I was like, this is something we're just gonna conflict and fight for sometimes. And because if we don't fight for it, it's never gonna change. It's never gonna do anything. And something we have to, honestly, that's all I get to explain here, we're fighting for diversity. And I hate to say it, it makes me sad to say it, but even as a teacher, one thing I have dealt with me personally is unfortunately been other Black people coming up to me saying, stop doing what you're doing. I was all like, why are we against each other? We need to come together as a community. That's why I joined Black in Gaming recently. I'm one of the intersectional mods. Woo woo! And I'm a voice. I said I'm gonna be a voice for Black women in games. I don't care who says anything. It's because there's gonna be some Black woman out there, a Black girl that wants to make video games and wants to role model. Actually, that Black girl now, she's going to college for game art. because I came to her class one time in middle school and taught her something. So that's one thing we need to band together.
In my journey, 6 years, I have self-funded my own studio. No grants, no financing. It was And as a Black man, this journey has not been hard, as we know. It wasn't going to be, especially in a space that I feel like was owed to us. Shout out to Jerry Lawson. So that being said, my journey, I said 30 seconds. My journey, funding is the biggest thing, as we know, for all Black, brown, BIPOC businesses. If we can get the infrastructure to support, we'll see more of Kuma out there. We'll see more of Lauren. We'll see more of these creators, and that has been my biggest roadblock. Mike?
I'll say briefly, the biggest challenge is we always have to work harder to get wherever we're going. We always have to put in more time, more work, more effort, get more education, because the gatekeepers decide whether we get in or not, right? So to answer your question, I think the solution is we need to be the gatekeepers. Like, we have to get in those roles of power and authority so that when we make it up, we can put the ladder back down for those that come after us. Because at that point, when we can mentor the next generation and help them out, and you hit on this, sometimes we're even hard on our own people ourselves. Like, I grew up in Compton and people are like, oh, you talk white. I'm like, what? So speaking educated is a problem? Like, it's a privilege for only white people? That kind of shit pisses me off. So why do we tear each other down? We need to lift each other up, get in those positions of power, and keep sending the ladder back down, because as she pointed out, the ancestors are always watching, and the better we can treat each other, the more proud they will be of us for the sacrifices they made to get here for us.
Okay. Y'all preaching on Saturday? Okay. Oh, preach. Okay, so we got one more question. We literally got 1 minute.
I'm gonna be fast. I'm gonna do my best. I'm not standing up. So in the effort of helping each other as Black creatives, BIPOC creatives, that you know of or are willing to join in, are there any, Black-centered unions or support systems? You jumped up! Ooh! Yeah. Or such of the like for both professional and indie creators.
So there's a thing called Black in Gaming. So it's a community of Black people, professionals, all the professionals, almost everyone there is professional somewhat into gaming industry. So we do that. I'm one of the mods for them. And also there's Black Voices in Gaming, there's Black Girls Who Code. There are several communities and of professional people who work there. It's just,
Can I talk to you after this?
Yes, of course. I love people to talk to me.
I wanted to give a shout out, because Black Voice in Gaming has the thing is, I've been a part of a lot of groups for a very long time, and one of the big things is that there's interesting cone of there are not many Black developers who have released their own project, that have owned their own company, that have released another project after that because they've made $100,000 or more, that have been able to stay sustainable. And so it's great to have a Black professionals group. And there's AAA devs, they need support. But the only way we're gonna change this is by actually changing it and being because right now all the studios are owned by white dudes mostly, and you see that's actually destroying the industry right now, because those are the guys who get all the money. Even Black developers who leave Riot or Bungie, that usually white guys get that
Nintendo.
money. Yeah, they don't get invested in. They get asked how are you going to spend that last 2 cents, whereas the white guys are asked about their thoughts and dreams. So the thing is, for Black entrepreneurs, because we need help for students, we need all those things, but this one group specifically is about independent entrepreneurs running their own studios with their own voice, so that they can continue going on, because I have done those things. Justin Woodward, who founded it, has done those things. There are not that many people who have done those things, that we're trying to help anybody who's doing that stuff so that they can stay alive 5, 10, 15 years running their own studio, and then that's normal.
I love it. All right. So we are over time. I'm sorry, folks. But I will give y'all each 10 seconds. Where can the people find you, your work, what you do? Valencia, you got it.
So I go by Valencia Coleman or Valencia Craven Darren's everywhere. I love my HTML. I love LinkedIn. I love my, I just look up Valencia Coleman,
find me everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, all of it, at Lab Illustration, L-A-B Illustration. It is singular, not plural. And also my podcast on Painted in Color on YouTube. Go check it out if you're an artist, especially one who wants to get into the industry and a person of color.
Hey guys, Anthony Morris. I'm on TikTok and Instagram. It's just Ant Morris everywhere. I can be Google too if you want to find me.
Google me, baby.
Yeah, I'm Shawn Alexander Allen, Shawn AA on all the socials, and New Challenger, which is NU Challenger. That's my company. Beatdown City is my game. So.
You can find me on all social media platforms at I am Isabella Rose. I just had a single that came out yesterday. It's called Sun Kiss. It gives really, thank you. It gives really summer vibes. It's the perfect summer anthem. And I'm also working on some really exciting projects.
So my name is Michael Scott. If you Google me, you'll probably find Steve Carell in The Office, which is why all my credits got messed up on IMDb. Yes, very different. So you can find me at Michael Scott Action, at Michael Scott Action, mostly on Instagram, but I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, but Michael Scott Action on Instagram.
Hello, my name is Joshua Blow. You can find me as Game Dev Fit everywhere. And then you can also find me downstairs in the indie cluster where we're showing Rebellion Striker, a game I'm producing right now.
My name is John Moss-Lowell. One thing I want to see in video games is them put in their instruction that you're allergic to peanuts, but then never bring it back up. So later on in the game, you keep dying, but you don't know why.
My name is Hunter Midway Prado Ditch, and you can find me at Boxy Ditch on all the socials.
Hello, I'm Miss Icy Queen. X, Miss Icy Queen on all social, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Bless you.
I am Toshi. You can find me at official_TOSHIJ. And you can also check out my podcast, Melanin Minds, where we focus on Black women in comics, manga, and anime in my podcast on the Midnight Comics YouTube channel.
And of course, I'm Lloyd with Midnight Comics, and you can find us on midnightcomics.org or Midnight X Comics everywhere except for Facebook and YouTube, where it's Midnight Comics.
Awesome. And my name is Kuma. I am the founder of Nerdy Bear Studios. Nerdy Bear Studios everywhere. We also have a website. We have a game demo set up down in the exhibition hall. It's our first game. All of our games focus on representation. That is the whole thing that we do, which is why you see these lovely people up here.
Let's give it up for our host.
Sign up for his mailing list.
Yes. So, thank y'all. It's been amazing. Unfortunately, the hour has spent, and I know somebody else is waiting to get in here. We will catch y'all on the floor. I am in 19, Walk of Fame.
Oh yeah, I'm an AA 600. Come visit me too.